You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000, my heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
The Internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get set again.
We believe in the American way, and we built this country called the USA, and we fly our flag because we're proud and free, we're Americans. Red, white, and blue is our way of life. Never back down from a challenge or a fight. Nature provides, God gives the rights, we're Americans. We fish the waters and we hunt the lands. We forge the steel with our own two hands. With what we've got, we do the best we can, we're Americans.
It's time now for the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show on K98 Talk. Now, here's Grouchy.
Good evening, everybody. It is great to finally be back with you. Have to apologize for the last 2 Wednesdays. One of them I was a little bit under the weather. The other I'm going to blame on my internet service provider who does not know how to scale their network and plan for outages during solar storms like the one that's ongoing right now. I don't know if you knew we were even having a solar storm. Maybe your electronics have been a little freaky lately, but when South Dakota can see the aurora lights, you know there's something going on. So anyway, glad to have you back with us. Glad to be back with you. And we're going to have a great show tonight. We got some news and hot button issues that we need to discuss, as always. And then a little later in the program, we are going to be joined by Mr. Charles Sauer, and we're going to discuss an article that he wrote and was published. And as soon as I can find the rest of my notes here, for those of you that are not familiar with Charles, and we're going to introduce him a little later in the show too, but this is the man that is president of the Market Institute. He's an economist and a policy specialist, known on Capitol Hill for developing common sense solutions and effective legislative coalitions, a respected leader in D.C. and frequently relied upon as a policy expert. He has worked for a Republican governor and represented an academic think tank and has been published or featured on such places as Entrepreneur.com, Fox Business News Channel, and the Daily Caller. In addition to writing congressional testimony and speeches for politicians, business owners, and academics. Now, that's just a taste. What we're going to be talking about with Charles tonight is a great story that's unfolding in the heartland of the United States. We're going to be talking about the EPA. We're going to be talking about the Teamsters. Yeah, the union, that's right. We're going to be talking about the Manhattan Project. We're going to be talking about toxic waste, the Army Corps of Engineers, and political fallout from all of this. And it's all one story. That's the best part, is how can you get so much into one story? But we're going to find out a little later on, so do stay tuned. We're going to kick things off tonight with a little bit of something that should have been covered during the last two shows, and then we'll move into some newer stuff. But I have got to get some of this stuff off of my chest. It's been bugging me, so please bear with me because I know you know about some of this already. We just have to cover it because you haven't heard my take. By now, you know that the United States has agreed to deploy 200 additional troops to Iraq and send Apache helicopters for the first time into the fight against ISIS. Now, if you remember 2 years ago, our president said that there is no way that he was putting boots on the ground, and he started drawing our troop numbers down. Now, he's slightly increasing them. He's doing a baby Bush move, if you will. And don't get me wrong, I still love President Bush. He wasn't perfect, okay? Neither was his father, and neither was the guy that came between them. But let me tell you something. We were not allowed the first time that we were in the Gulf over there, the Persian Gulf, Desert Shield, Desert Storm. Those of you, if you were there, you know what I'm talking about. We were not allowed to really go in and finish the job. A lot of what grew over the last decade in Iraq and Syria and Iran was because we were not allowed to finish. And I hate it, but that's just the way it is. Now, we have Obama doing these baby moves, increasing troops in such small incremental numbers and telling us that they're not combat troops, which we already know to be lies. These special forces troops are on the front lines. They are acting in an advisory capacity, at least partly, but don't be fooled for a minute into thinking that these men are not in skirmishes and battles and are leading these Iraqi troops to take back their cities. Okay? We can already prove that this is going on with the dead seal that we have. Horrific story out of Iraq. One of our finest killed by ISIS forces. And why? Why won't one of our presidents, I don't care Republican or Democrat, because neither one has actually done it yet, why won't they go in and finish the job? It's disgusting. There are people that point back going to Korea, and they say that we haven't been allowed to win a war since after World War II. And really, it's true. We've won a lot of battles, but we've never really finished anybody off. Why is that? Why is that? And now we got President Obama planning to go to Hiroshima. I guess he's going, this will be the first leg of his farewell apology tour. That's my guess anyway. You know, I'm sure he'll bow down and kiss whoever's ass over there. You know, I don't even know who's in charge of Japan anymore. I'm sorry, I don't keep up with their politics. I have a hard enough time keeping up with ours. You know what I mean. It's been an exciting primary season. But anyway, let's get back to topic here. We're talking about American forces in Iraq. And this uptick and the decision to put them closer to the front lines, like I mentioned, is designed to help Iraqi forces as they move to retake the key northern city of Mosul, which is, was Saddam Hussein's home city. Now, in speaking to reporters, Defense Secretary Ash Carter said the move to put U.S. advisors with the Iraqi brigades and battalion level will put them closer to the action. But he said they will have security forces with them, and the U.S. will try to reduce the risks. Another senior U.S. official said that 8 Apache helicopters will be authorized to help the Iraqi forces. Now, this is the kicker. When Iraqi leaders determine that they need them. Why are we counting on the people that can't or won't take the action that they need to take in order to seize their own cities? We're going to count on them to tell us when to fly into battle? I don't like this idea. I don't like it at all. If we're going to put Apaches in there, let's let our quote-unquote advisors that are up at the front make the decision on when the Apaches should be used. They're the guys that work with the Apache pilots already. They know how and when to call them in and for what purposes. There won't be debates back at the headquarters. They'll know when the call comes in that it's time to get busy. Now, last June, the Obama administration announced that hundreds of troops would be deployed to help the Iraqis retake Ramadi, a goal they did accomplish at the end of the year. Of the additional troops announced 3 weeks ago, most would be Army Special Forces, we're talking Green Berets here, who have been used throughout the ISIS campaign to advise and assist the Iraqis. That means lead into battle. The remainder would include some trainers, security forces for the advisors, and maintenance teams for the Apaches. These decisions reflect allegedly reflect weeks of discussions with commanders and Iraqi leaders, and a decision by Barack Obama to increase the authorized troop levels by 217, or from 3,870 to 4,087. The advise and assist teams made up about a dozen troops each, accompanied by security forces, would embed with Iraqi brigades and battalions, likely putting them closer to the front lines and at greater risk from mortar and rocket fire, not to mention more risk of IEDs, more risk of ambush attacks, and more risk of anything that could be done to anybody over there in that theater of battle. Now, Ash Carter has said that the United States is on the same page with the Iraqi government in how to intensify the fight against ISIS. If that's true, then our boys are in really deep crap, folks. Because if we're counting on our administration and the Iraqis for battlefield decisions, it's doomed to failure. Unless our brave, intelligent, and highly trained fighting men completely take charge and run everything from the brigade and battalion level. You know, I don't see any other way it works. I really don't. The Apache helicopters are considered a significant aid to any attack on Mosul, Americans will fly the helicopters, which provide air support to ground troops and carry precision weapons, another new vulnerability for U.S. forces. Last December, Iraqis refused Apache helicopters for the battle to retake Ramadi, but this time officials said they believe the fast attack helicopters will add an important edge. You think? I'd love to have 8 Apaches at my disposal trying to take out ISIS. I know what I'd do with them. Speaking to U.S. troops at the airport in Baghdad, Ash Carter also said that the U.S. will send additional rocket-assisted artillery systems to the Iraqis. Great. Because when they turn on us, we want to make sure they have that technology in their hands, right? I mean, so, they also said that the number of special operations forces in Syria would be increased at some point, but Carter did not mention that in his comments. The official that did mention that spoke on the condition of anonymity because they weren't authorized to discuss the matter publicly. So a couple weeks back, Carter met with Lieutenant General Sean McFarland, the top U.S. military commander for the Islamic State fight, as well as a number of Iraqi leaders, including Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi and
All right, folks, you remember those technical difficulties we were talking about earlier? We seem to have that going on. I'm going to see if I can get Grouchy back stabilized again. We'll be back in a second.
Welcome to Voices of Global Freedom Radio.
We are bragging about being on your syndicate with Sparks Radio Network and K98 for the audience benefit. This, on the line with us, delighted he called in, is Rick Robinson, the Grand Poobah of Sparks Radio Network. Rick, tell the audience how they can find you on the internet, please.
Well, there's several places you can find us. If you're looking specifically for the Spark Radio network, we do actually have our own website. It's just like it sounds, www.thesparkradionetwork.com. We also, through a business partner of mine, I have started an online station that I am the general manager of, as well as the managing partner of the network that I'm building, and that is K98talk.com. As far as the various ways you can find the shows, at this point they're about being disseminated everywhere. My show, America Off the Rails, is available on iHeartRadio. It's available on TuneIn Radio anytime the station is live with my broadcast. It's also available through Spreaker. You can find some of our older episodes, if you're adventurous, right here on Blog Talk Radio. And also, I have recently been picked up by Stitcher. So pretty much, if you don't know how to find me, it's mainly because you're not looking for me. Just saying.
Stitcher is quite an accomplishment, isn't it?
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome.
We are also told that you've been accepted by the Conservative Talk Radio Directory. Congratulations, Rick.
Thank you very much for that. It's actually, no one was more surprised by that than I am, to be quite frankly honest. But I'm really hard on myself when it comes to this kind of stuff. So I hear from people all the time what a great job we do, and I'm just like, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's really, for me, the biggest thing, honestly, and this is going to sound a little weird because, I'm on a website now with Sean Hannity and some of the others, but for me, the biggest one that kind of stands out as to just my aha moment of making it onto something like that lists, I think it's there's 100 different talk show hosts on there, But the one that stood out for me was the Jerry Doyle show, because he's now a conservative talk show host, but he used to be, and well, he still is, he's an actor, but he used to play on some shows that I watched while I was late teens, early 20s, like Babylon 5. And I'm a pretty big sci-fi junkie as well as a politics junkie. So the fact that I'm on a website that has my picture a few rows below his just kind of really made my day. Just saying.
You're an Asimov kind of guy. Are you?
I'm much anything but the kitchen, everything including the kitchen sink kind of guy when it comes right down to it. I have an eclectic group of interests all the way around.
We always have also, it's quite an honor to be on the Conservative Talk Radio directory. It really is. We're pleased. Ken, the fearless leader, like you, the firm hand of the Conservative Talk directory, is forming a new board of directors. Backpack and I and Jana Rama, founding editor of themagnifiedview.com, are really honored to be members of that board of directors of the directory, Rick. So we're tickled to death, really. We're working closely with Ken. Yeah, I talked with him the other day, Backpack and I did, and he's a real pleasure and privilege, he said, to have you on there.
Well, it's definitely my honor. So the next time you speak to him, just pass along my gratitude, because it's, like I said, it's just to be on the same webpage with some of those guys after spending so many years listening to folks like Sean Hannity and Glenn Beck and Rush Limbaugh and even Jerry Doyle, which is honestly my number one pick out of that list, just because I am sci-fi junkie as well as political junkie. But just to be even on that website at all is just a complete honor for me. So the next time you talk to him, just tell him I said thanks again.
I will. Ken's listing us under 5 categories. News picks. So within the directory, he has a bunch of categories, for best producer.
So have to apologize there. A little bit of technical difficulties. Like I mentioned, my internet service provider is having issues with the solar storm. We're going to dive back into the show here. Top of a news story. We'll get going, and I'm going to try to keep a better eye on this. So, I have spoken several times before on air and on Twitter. If you're not following me on Twitter, you definitely should be. That's at TCC_Grouchy. But I've talked about this push for the minimum wage of $15 an hour. And, my stance is definitely anti-$15 an hour wage, free market guy. But with that in mind, let's examine a little bit why California and New York are moving to implement a $15 minimum wage. Right off the bat, their big noisemaker is that it's to provide workers with a living wage. Now, it's very true that surviving on $8, $9, or even $10 an hour, particularly in expensive metro areas like New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Boston, Dallas, Chicago, it's not easy. Property is expensive in these areas. But raising the minimum wage is not going to provide a pathway out of poverty for these workers. What's lost in all of this is that raising the minimum wage is not only a poverty trap, but it's really a disguised income redistribution. That's what it is. Jobs in the fast food and entry-level retail industries were never intended to be careers. Yes, for some, these jobs can provide a ladder to success and upward mobility by working up from the grill to, say, a shift leader type position, and then to a manager and potentially even a franchise owner. And there are franchises out there that are owned by people that did this. But that path is difficult, and it's not a real common one. The claim by minimum wage workers that they can't afford to raise a family on $9 or $10 an hour is not really a salient point everyone should be debating. The real question is, why are they trying to raise a family with a minimum wage job when they are in their 30s or 40s? And certainly societal issues like education, your environment and opportunity are key to answering this question. But raising the minimum wage for these jobs only encourages individuals to remain in them and not to seek self-improvement and training and education to advance themselves upward. Increasing worker pay to $15 an hour creates a perpetual poverty trap for low-paid workers. And stick with me, this is an economics lesson here, so I know it's not the most exciting stuff in the world, but let's give it hell, okay? First, if you raise minimum wage, it removes incentive to, like I just said, better one's skills and become more productive. There's a clear correlation between education and productivity. Economically speaking, workers and other production factors like land and capital earn the value of their respective revenue product. Now, this is, in other words, firms pay returns to these factors relative to their contribution to the firm's revenue. Higher labor productivity results in higher wages and higher rent for better land and more interest for more capital, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is when I wish I had John Honig on the air with me. He understands this stuff just great and can explain it even better than I am, I'm sure. But just raising the wages paid to workers without a proportionate increase in their productivity does not result in a sustainable equilibrium. Now, firms will seek to rebalance either by substituting the now relatively cheaper capital or automation for labor, thus reducing employment, or by providing training for a few workers to become more productive and then letting many others go, which also reduces employment. Either way, the end result will be fewer remaining wage earners and more unemployed, low-skilled workers living in poverty. This doesn't take a genius to figure out. A second outcome is an unfortunate impact on prices. Most studies indicate that for the fast food industry to maintain their profit margins, and yes, these are for-profit companies that expect to maintain profit margins. So in order for them to do that while paying a $15 per hour wage, they would need to raise prices roughly 35%. Meanwhile, a Gallup study shows that around 40% of people earning $20,000 a year or less eat fast food at least twice a week. This increases to roughly 50% for those earning up to $50,000 annually. The economic effect, as seen by those receiving the minimum wage increase, would be to also see a dramatic, actually historic rise in inflation for most of the goods and services they purchase. And it'll come sooner than later. This $15 per hour minimum wage, these workers will be trapped in poverty with, because most of what they purchase will cost significantly more. The coming price increases, being pushed by increased wages without increased productivity, masks an even more profound outcome. It's disguised income redistribution. Pundits see this coming income redistribution something like this. First, minimum wage is increased. Then prices increase as a consequence. And finally, consumers paying the higher prices are essentially transferring their incomes to the minimum wage worker, now earning a higher rate. This model would be essentially correct, except for the fact that a significant number of purchases made by minimum wage workers are to purchase goods and services provided by other minimum wage workers. It's really an income transfer and not a redistribution. It's not closing the perceived inequality or income inequality gap. It's merely transferring income in a round-robin sort of way among minimum wage workers. Now, workers earning an increased minimum wage will spend it mostly on higher priced items purchased from firms that employ minimum wage workers. The planned effect of increasing low-income workers' well-being through higher wages will be dramatically diluted by their spending of that increase on the higher-priced goods. The outcome is a higher equilibrium of transactions measured by dollars, not by volume. If we are to assume that minimum wage workers essentially only survive by spending all of their income on necessities such as food, clothing, and shelter, then increasing their wages only to pay higher prices doesn't leave them any better off. But what about the existing higher than minimum wage workers? Workers who earn more than the minimum wage will definitely see one and possibly two ill effects. If they earn marginally more than the current minimum wage, they will likely see pay increases, particularly if they earn more than the current minimum wage but less than the new minimum wage, assuming that their jobs still exist, that is. Likewise, if they currently earn just marginally more than $15 per hour, they should also see an income increase to prevent wage compression. That doesn't mean they will, but that they should. This is the effect of why should I be responsible for all this stuff for only $15.10 an hour when for $15 an hour I can just flip the burgers. No, the less than and slightly greater than $15 per hour workers will see small pay increases, but will also subsequently suffer price increases, leaving them economically in the same place, if not worse off. However, workers earning significantly more than the $15 per hour minimum wage, say $20 or $25 an hour or more, will have an entirely different experience. They won't see pay increases to offset wage compression because their salary is already well above that. And their current rate is far too high to require a pay raise to comply with the new minimum wage level. What they will see is instead the same income with higher prices. Essentially, they are the ones transferring their incomes to the minimum wage workers by paying for inflated goods and services. You see, folks, it's a giant shell game is what it is. And it's crap. It really is. I am sick to death of these liberal plans. They flap their gums about how this is for the poor people. They're not taking care of the people. They're trying to find a way to get more money into the economy so that their bottom line, or should I say, intake at the governmental level increases, and that means they have more money to spend on their pet projects. Now, I don't get why everybody can't see this. It's not that hard. It's really not that hard to understand. But such is our world, you know. It is what it is, I guess they say. But, man, I don't know. You know, whatever. It is. So, anyway, that's my take on the minimum wage and the income redistribution / rotation / shell game / cut of crap that it really is. We're gonna do one more quick story, and then we're gonna hit a commercial break, and then we'll be bringing our guest, Mr. Charles Sauer, on. I am scrambling notes here. I'm sorry. I'm still a little discombobulated with the loss of service a few minutes back. We got President Obama here talking about Hillary Clinton's emails. He said he can, quote unquote guarantee that the ongoing FBI investigation will be based on evidence and not politics. He also said he continues to believe that Clinton did not jeopardize national security by conducting official State Department business on a private mail server. He says, quote, I guarantee that there is no political influence in any investigation conducted by the Justice Department or the FBI. He hiked up his mom jeans and continued, not just in this case, but in any case. Chris Wallace told Obama that some Americans worry that decisions regarding the email investigation will be made on political grounds and not legal grounds as Clinton runs for president. Wallace asked point blank, can you guarantee to the American people, can you direct the Justice Department to say, Hillary Clinton will be treated as the evidence goes. She will not be in any way protected, Wallace asked. Obama grabbed his mom jeans once again, girded his loins, and said, I can guarantee that, and I can guarantee that not because I give Attorney General Lynch a directive. That is institutionally how we have always operated. Oh, excuse me. I do not talk to the Attorney General about pending investigations. See, this is what I was talking about earlier about how he just lies to all Americans. I do not talk to FBI directors about pending investigations. We have a strict line and always have maintained it. Yeah, right, whatever. Yet in the same interview, he did give his opinion of the case, describing Hillary Clinton as an outstanding Secretary of State who would never intentionally put America in any kind of jeopardy. Moreover, the Obama Justice Department previously sidestepped investigations that could prove damaging to the president. Under former Attorney General Eric Holder, the Justice Department refused to turn over documents related to Fast and Furious. You remember that, the gun walking operation for which Holder was held in contempt after Brian Terry was killed with one of the guns that the Justice Department walked over the Mexican border and ended up in the hands of the cartel. Yeah, you remember. Just sweep that under the rug, Obama, kind of like Hillary does with her bodies. The Obama Justice Department refused to prosecute former IRS official Lois Lerner for contempt of Congress after she testified about improper scrutiny given to conservative groups that applied for tax-exempt status. And yet he can guarantee there will be no political influence in any investigation conducted by the Justice Department or the FBI, not in this case, but in any case, full stop, period, said Obama. Folks, I don't know about you, but this guy's full of crap. He said she'll be treated no different. And Obama repeated, guaranteed, full stop. Nobody gets treated differently when it comes to the Justice Department because nobody is above the law. I am the law. Yeah, whatever. Thank you, Sly. Even if she ends up as the Democratic nominee, said Wallace. And Obama says, Chris, how many times do I have to say it? Guaranteed. In the same interview, Obama urged Americans to keep Clinton's handling of classified information, quote unquote, in perspective. This is where Obama made his famous, maybe not as famous as it should be, but he made it famous and it stuck with me. His famous comment about there is classified and then there is classified when it comes to information. Maybe you should define those two words, the same word, classified. There's classified and then there's classified. Why don't you classify the difference, Mr. President? Okay. Well, anyway, that's enough of that. We're going to take a commercial break. We're going to try to get our guest, Mr. Charles Sauer, on the line. And when we come back, I hope to have him and we can dive into this great story of his that we're going to cover as much as we can cover in the next 20 minutes. So do stay tuned. We should be back in just a few.
Oh, but ain't that America? You and me. Ain't that America? Something to see, baby. Ain't that America? Home of the free, yeah.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000, my heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
As a mother, you don't want to have to worry about this bill is coming, but then she needs this chemo. That's a decision you shouldn't have to make.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
The treatment doesn't get any better than what you receive at St. Jude. It saved my life. It saved my daughter's life. It saved our family.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures. Saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Think fast. In the short time it takes to listen to this message, a small flame can turn into a big fire. Several minutes more, and thick, poisonous smoke may have filled your lungs and reduced your ability to respond. Give it 5, and your entire home may be filled with flames.
Keep breathing. We've got you.
Don't let your world go up in smoke. Have working smoke alarms and always stay in the kitchen when cooking at high temperatures. Learn more at usfa.fema.gov because fire is everyone's fight.
Great.
Oh, but ain't that America? You and me. Ain't that America? Something to see.
right, everybody. Welcome back. As promised, we have Mr. Charles Sauer with us, and Charles is the president of the Market Institute. He is an economist and a policy specialist. You may have read his work on entrepreneur.com or seen him on Fox Business, The Daily Caller, or Women Entrepreneur, in addition to writing congressional testimony and speeches for politicians, business owners, and academics. Please welcome Mr. Charles Sauer. We have a great story to go over tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys.
Hey, absolutely. It is our pleasure. So, Charles, this story that you wrote, this is actually very interesting, going on in St. Louis with the Westlake landfill. Please give us the rundown on this whole thing. Tell us what's going on and how this is all going to tie together with the EPA, the Teamsters, the Manhattan Project, and November politics.
I mean, this story has everything in it, and you haven't heard about it, your listeners haven't heard about it. It's something that we need to pay attention to because it really exposes the left's hypocrisy on both environmental issues and labor issues. And what we have here is, so Westlake landfill is just outside of St. Louis. It was used as a dumping ground for the radioactive leftovers from the Manhattan Project. And that dumping occurred in the 1970s. In 1990, it was deemed a Superfund site and put on the list, and it was given the jurisdiction over that site was given to the EPA. So now we have the Manhattan Project and the EPA involved, and then we have government inefficiency. So from 1990, it took from 1990 to 2016 for the EPA to do the studies that they needed to do to see exactly what the problems were with the site, how the radioactive material was dumped, and to come up with a comprehensive plan. It's a government inefficiency at its best. But now that we have a comprehensive plan, and we're ready to, if we could start moving forward now, people that own the Superfund site, that own Westlake, could start by the end of the year and be finished in the next couple of years. But the left doesn't like the fact that it's a private company that has non-unionized labor. And so when they clean it up, and they would pay for the cleanup, they would pay for the EPA's comprehensive plan by themselves, but the left doesn't like that. So they're trying to change the jurisdiction from the EPA over back to the Army Corps of Engineers, which will likely reset the project back 16 years, because now the Army Corps would have to do their research and their plan and put together a comprehensive plan, and then, of course, the taxpayer would be holding the purse strings at the end of that one. But for the Teamsters, this is great news because the Army Corps of Engineers would use unionized labor to do the cleanup. So you just get a little bit of all of the pieces of the left on this, and the fact that they don't really care about the environment, or they would want to put the pedal down and actually get this site cleaned up. They want to set us back 16 years, and they don't want to do it for they don't want to change it over to the Army Corps. They want to do it for the Union. It's just a wild issue that is really a tragedy, because the people of Bridgeton, Missouri, again, just outside of St. Louis, is the community that's hurting because of the left's, malice towards the people, and they're uncaring about actually getting the issue fixed.
So let me get this right. They did a 16-year study to determine that it needed to be cleaned up. Do we have any of the results from the soil tests, or are there illnesses in this area? Is there something that's like screaming, this has to happen?
Yeah. So the study itself wasn't 16 years, but they did a bunch of studies within that 16 years. Superfund sites the Superfund process is notoriously slow, as is all government projects. It's like trying to send a letter from coast to coast via. It's not the most efficient way to do it. But the studies that they got back were all safe. So when you look at the people that oppose the landfill, they hold up the studies and they're like, look, there's radiation. And what's interesting is that the radiation that they've found off of the site is less than or equal to the radiation in any part of Missouri. So I actually grew up in Kansas. So for me, it's kind of interesting. I'm like, yay, all of Missouri is a super fun site. But it's bad for science because, you know, we have background radiation. It's just a fact of our life. The radiation that is the radioactive material that came from the Manhattan Project was mixed with a bunch of dirt at the time. It's unsafe, but now it's buried at Westlake. And so, in other words, it's not being carried outside of there. But the plan from the EPA is to put, I believe, a cap of some sort on the site and do a few things that their studies don't even call for. But so it's not leaking out. There's not people getting sick. But it needs to be taken care of so that in case, you know, I grew up in Kansas, it's Tornado Alley. In case something happens, we need to get it fixed now so that in the long run, there is nothing that happens down the future. I mean, that's why we have the Superfund process, and that's why they take it very seriously. Resetting it 6 years doesn't do anything for the people of that community.
Absolutely. And I'm reading, I've got your article up as we go here. So we have 8,700 tons of leached barium sulfate that was covered with 39,000 tons of soil in this landfill. So, and we don't have any leaching into any kind of water tables or water sources and no abnormal radiation readings. To me, that's incredible all on its own. But yeah, it does need to be cleaned up. And this has got to be a leftist utopian wet dream to get this to the Teamsters, I would think.
Yeah. So, and it's, they missed one thing in there. The one thing that they're seeing in that dream is the UN. So last month there was a tribunal. You can't see me, but I made air quotes around the word tribunal when I said it. I even talking on the phone, I can't help myself because I feel like tribunal should have a real meaning to it or something special. But when you read about it, it was the people that oppose solving the problem now, holding a kangaroo court where the Teamsters, who again don't represent the workers on the site, but the Teamsters testified that the working conditions of the landfill workers was a UN human rights violation. And everybody in the tribunal nodded their heads and agreed. And the outcome of the tribunal was that they called on the UN to come in and oversee Westlake landfill. You can't get it's political theater at its highest on something that it's a horrible. What was dumped there was bad, and it needs to be cleaned up. And so the political theater here is horrible to laugh at. But they can't get any worse here. Bringing in the union to testify about something that they don't know about, and then calling on the UN, a foreign body, to oversee us. What is that? We're Team Captain America, I guess, is where we are. If you've seen that movie yet,
I haven't yet, but I'm going to. So, if I'm reading this right, the Senate has already approved a measure that would take this out from under the EPA and give it to the Corps. Is that right?
The Senate approved the measure, and in some sort of way, it would approve. It doesn't make sense that the Senate. It's awful that the Senate would work this way, but when a bill comes up and it's two senators from a state asking for to be changed in their state, it's in the Senate. It's hard to stop a bill like that. It's a honor kind of place. But fortunately in the House, there's some brains and some thought that can be put into a bill like this, and there's different voices in the state. There's more than just one. And, in the end, if it moves to the Army Corps of Engineers, the people that will pay for this are the taxpayers instead of the private company. So it's a good, it's right now stopped. And so we're trying to keep it that way over in the House, before the people of Bridgeton, get set back 16 years.
Well, that sounds like a good idea to me. I'm all about a private company paying for it versus taxpayers. So how does this fall out into November politics, especially where the Teamsters may actually end up endorsing Donald Trump?
Well, I mean, this is the year for political forecasts. So I'm interested in hearing what you thought on that myself. I don't know how it will come in. Trump is still forming his campaign. Missouri is. I talked to Senator Bond at one time, and he said that Democrats lead Missouri with 41% of the vote. So it's a tough state for Republicans. You have to fight for your vote. You have to fight to keep that Democrat under getting that 10%, more than what they woke up with. But I mean, I think that, when you bring the EPA in and you bring science in, this gives Donald Trump a way, despite the union's involvement, and I think how he will be with the unions this year. I think that this gives not just Donald Trump, but the Republicans in Missouri and the Republican challengers in Missouri an opportunity to talk about real science and take back the numbers game and actually how we should take care of people and how we should help them and how we should actually listen to real science and real tests, just acting like we do and mocking people for not acting like they do. So I think it's an opportunity for the right that they need to grab a hold of. I think that we see that in a lot of other states, but I'm excited and hope that somebody does that. But, Donald Trump will be moving 1,000,000 miles an hour. He just added his policy director, I think, last week, and I don't even know if they've publicly announced him yet. So, they're still getting their feet under them and getting set for the election.
Right. Well, we've got about 2 minutes left to wrap this up. So is there anything that you would like to add to this, or can maybe I hit you with another question or two?
Hey, if you want to hit me with another question, I'm interested in your thoughts after hearing from me. So I guess that's why I go with see if you have another question ready.
Okay, well, you mentioned that this is an opportunity for the Republicans to really seize the opportunity and to rely on real science. A lot of people don't even realize how much the Republican Party has done environmentally speaking. And, it's at least on par, if not ahead of what the Democrats do for the environment. When you start looking at huge environmental acts, you can go back to Teddy Roosevelt even leading the charge on this. But, Bush did I forget the name of the act to preserve the oceans. Yep. They increased the national parks under Republicans. Environmentally speaking, Republicans do historically more and in a bigger, more, I guess, more meaningful way. So who would be the one, I guess, that would be the need to take this bull by the horns and grab this science and really push this hard and make the difference between what Congress will do with this?
Well, I mean, you said you were reading from one of my articles, and I have a couple of more on it as well. I'm an economist and a numbers guy, and so I know I'm trying to do it, and I don't think that one person, you need one one person to do things. Over the course of time, if we look back, there's great leaders, but to reverse something like bad science or myths about bad science, I think you need a chorus of people. So I'm out there trying to do it. I think that if a Trump got involved, it would be great. But I think you need a lot of voices all speaking out about the acts that you discussed, the way that capitalism, can stop the tragedy of the commons. And so I think we all need to talk about how the Republican solutions are the right solutions to problems, but also using issues like Westlake to point out how the left doesn't use real science, and when it comes down to real science, they run away and they don't care about the people per se as much as their moneyed interest, the union, and their crony friends.
Well, I'll definitely buy that for $1. I would much rather see a privatized company handle this and pay people to actually work for a living as opposed to the Teamsters being paid by the government to do this on the taxpayer's dime. Well, Charles, I actually had a great little discussion here. I enjoyed it. I definitely want to do some more reading on your work, and maybe one day we can hammer something out where we could spend a few more minutes together on air.
Well, that sounds great to me. I had fun myself.
All right. Well, Charles, thank you for being with us. And folks, we're going to sign off. This has been the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show, reminding you, don't always take my word for it. Do your own homework, because that's the best way to learn, and come up with your facts, because facts are what matter, just as we discussed. I want to thank again our guest, Mr. Charles Sauer, and I want to thank Rick in the studio for holding it all together for us, and thank you, Mediacom, for lasting with this solar storm you're suffering through. Thank God we made it. All right, everybody, that's a wrap. Have a great evening, and we will see you next Wednesday night. God bless.
Red, white, and blue is our way of life. We never back down from a challenge or a fight. Nature provides, God gives the rights. We're Americans.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.